Here.
Chair Mareki,
Here.
you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
B, Chairwoman's remarks.
I have none. Next item.
C, approve the July 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Okay, we have an approval and support. Any changes, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next item.
D, unfinished business. There is none listed.
Okay, next item.
Item 1, under new business, a discussion about the status of the Township Road Initiative.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, esteemed panel. No, good morning, everybody. It's been too long since I've been here. Andrew Kandrivas, Director of Public Services. I will note off the bat that Michelle Yancey, who I think does a really great job for the department being here and marshaling our contracts, was kind of caught in some of the airline hubbub, so she won't be here today. And I wish she was here next to me because she's helpful in all aspects of this. Some of what I want to kind of talk about happens to do with contracts as well. So, the township, whatever name we want to give it, that we'll call it Township Road Initiative for right now. Local roads, township roads. So that was an allocation put in the budget from, an allocation of the road fund put aside especially for roads. And I think during the budget conversations, if not during the actual at the table, but at least in conversations, it's an acknowledgement that a lot of our local subdivision roads in the townships are in really bad shape. And it's not unique to Wayne County. If you look all around the metro area, a lot of these subdivisions were built at around the same times. And it's not just a question of, okay, the concrete doesn't last that long, but in many instances, it's been a case of what's called ASR. And it's a chemical reaction in a lot of the concrete that was used during the 90s and 2000s. Everybody's been finding it. And I know you've heard about it before. Our friend Ron Agasinski, when he was director of engineering, would always talk about ASR at this table. But that's been a particular issue in our subdivisions, especially in our townships. And I think it's just a function of when these townships really started growing in terms of housing. If you look between Macomb, Oakland, Wayne, Monroe counties, a lot of the new home growth on the former farmers' fields kind of happened in the 90s and 2000s. And so roads were built around there, and we're still suffering. I know that especially in like Chairwoman Mareki, your district, a lot of roads, your former district and your current district, a lot of roads that were impacted by ASR. And these are subdivision roads, concrete subdivision roads. So it's always been an issue for me, but in dealing with all of you in this role as director or my previous role as liaison to the commission, it's been an acute problem that how do you find the resources to fix these local roads, very local residential roads in townships when the townships don't receive their own dollars. They don't, from Act 51, they do not receive like cities receive or like the county receives dollars for roads. We have a responsibility to maintain those roads. So, how do we do that when we know there's not enough money to go around? So I was excited to go ahead and kind of formalize a township road initiative. In the past, some of you might have been here when there were different approaches to this. And it was kind of setting some money aside, I think in one instance in 2015, I think of 2014, perhaps, before my time, obviously in the county, but there was an equal split, like all 9 townships shared a pot of money equally. Then there was a later iteration, I believe, where it was by 3 different rankings of population. So different populations got pots of money. It was overseen by our engineering group, which is understandable because engineering kind of does this type of work. In reality, they're roads maintenance issues. Our roads maintenance crews are the ones that respond to whether you have dirt roads and it's gravel that needs to get, graded or ditches need to be cleaned out, or whether it is catch basins are collapsing on concrete roads and, or you have failure on roads and you're trying to fix the joints and things in our townships. That falls on roads maintenance. That doesn't fall on our engineering group. That falls on our roads maintenance group. Unfortunately, roads maintenance is really boots on the ground, And we leave a lot of the strategic planning and finance funding arm, the federal aid committee these types of organizations that many of you are aware of and participate in. That is off through our engineering department. So what we had was engineering leadership kind of setting up the parameters and was responsible for meeting out the projects and making sure that they comply with whatever rules were put in, and then following up and making sure that if there's an invoice from a township, it got paid in some manner. I don't believe any of this worked particularly well. And I'm not blaming any of our current or past staffers and for that. It's just, we're not really set up for that. We're set up for certain ways. And doing a program every now and then with a small amount of money wasn't necessarily something that they had set up. So what I think I'd spoken to you all about before was like, let's formalize this. And I saw an opportunity with our asset management plan. And if you recall, we've had some explanations of our asset management plan. Not currently, but our current asset management plan was helped compiled by HNTB. HNTB has been on contract. They started with Director Watts for a 10-year asset management plan to get in front of state law that was mandating these things. And HNTB helped put the plan together. And a lot of that was really, in my eyes, hit the bridges. It was a better tactic to hitting bridges. The roads, we always kind of had a plan on what way to tackle roads. The bridges weren't always something that fit into those plans. I think with HNTB and the 10-year asset management plan process, we're able to figure out, okay, how much money goes to preserving a road, how much to rebuild a road, how much to preserve a bridge, and how much to rebuild a bridge. And that really is a function of better communication and data between our different divisions and these other people with expertise, HNTB, who runs these types of programs for other municipalities and counties as well. So HNTB came up for an extension of their asset management plan work, and that was done in November of last year. I think that finally came through commission in January. It was a 6-month extension to add some money and time. And so that recently expired several weeks ago. Before that did expire, they were able to draft a white paper. Deputy Director Keb Watton and I had been working with HNTB from that amendment time. In the amendment that was passed by you all, they gave them another 6 months. We put in there, we want an asset management plan. We want you to develop and help administer an asset management plan. And that's really for them or whoever's in that role. It's currently out for RFP right now. So we may have a new vendor that does our asset management planning with us. Maybe they'll apply and renew. I don't know. But either way, it was worked into the RFP to make sure we had like a professional way of setting up and also administering an on local road initiative. That local road initiative, when they did an asset management plan, they took out local roads of that. They said, let's focus on the federally funded roads. And then the bridges were extra because those aren't necessarily federally funded through the formula. And we are now, through our new RFP and the last amendment, rolling the local roads back into that. We want some wavelength and some of those resources to be spent on figuring out how bad some of our local roads are, our township roads, on helping us determine a system to help fund those roads. One of the touchiest points of the asset management plan, if you recall, was this theory that you can't just keep spending on the worst roads. When they did it through, through analytics, they did it scientifically and mapped out and looked at over time. If you keep spending money on your worst roads, you don't get ahead of the curve. What you need to do is focus on a mix of fixes, if you will, of spending more money on mid-range roads, or even spending a little bit more than you used to spend on really good roads and making sure they're good for longer. If you can make sure they're good for longer, then they don't deteriorate as quickly. And ultimately you stretch that dollar a little bit further. So it's not always an easy step to take in any of your communities, saying, yeah, that road is absolute garbage, but we're going to have to let it another year fail. But that's effectively kind of what we've been doing with the asset management plan. And that should lead to to better results. None of it's great results because none of it includes getting more money from the legislature or steady streams from the feds for money. Now, all of that ties into the local roads because the local road money comes from things that are done, money that's not necessarily spent on our larger federal aid eligible roads. So we do not have a contract right now for the asset management plan. It is out to bid. I think if Michelle was here, she could tell me exactly. I think next week it closes. So I expect within the next month or so that they'll be vetting those proposals. And I'm hoping by October, November, we'll have another firm or at least a firm, whether it's HNTB or some other entity that has won the bid to be helping develop that. What we do have is a white paper, some highlights from HNTB before they closed their contract. And that was with some of the folks in engineering, Deputy Director Cab Watton, and with our management budget people, because that's important to have management budget at the table. The plan, the white paper compares Kalamazoo County, Washtenaw County, Monroe County, I'm sorry, not Monroe, Macomb, Washtenaw, Oakland, and every county is different. Macomb County has a department of roads similar to what we have as a DPS. Washtenaw County has a separately elected, Oakland County has a separately elected roads. So they are funded a little bit differently and they treat it a little bit differently. But what I envision is there will be kind of a call of projects where locals are asked, okay, identify the projects that you most like, and then identify the funds that you have to do a match. We'll develop a program where there'd be a match. So the money that you all have set aside in the budget for local roads will be the match money that the department will use. Maybe it'll be, let's say 50-50. It seems to be generally what's done. A 50-50 match, then you would put it to your townships. Okay, can you identify the project you'd like and 50% of that cost that you could pay for? And then we would all develop, we would all agree on the plan that would go forward. You know, you don't want to see or envision something where one township got all that money. Does it matter if they're the only township that comes forward? Does it matter if, you know, we'll all develop that together. This will be in cooperation with the commission. So we don't have that ready for you right now. And I will say that once we get the team on, HNTB was on board, but we kind of ran out of clock with them. I was explaining this to the chairwoman and Terry when I talked to you about it. You know, you had asked, is this something that can be rolled out in the spring? Like, can we get into the next construction season? And speaking with Deputy Director Cab Watton, I think we both agree that, you know, that should be something that's feasible. And maybe the program changes and we tweak it over time, but we do want to get something rolled out there now, start investing those dollars that were set aside. So I think that maybe, you know, an update in about 2 months or so would be fruitful. We should have, I don't ever want to get ahead of procurement here, but we should have our vendor, whether it's HNTB or another entity, and kind of a better understanding of how we might want to, you know, what the criteria might be that we want to put forward for this.
So, okay, so will it be our understanding? Well, so it is our understanding that we're going to allocate the money in, you know, the next year's budget as well for the Township Road Initiative. And we're looking to just getting ahead of myself before we had conversations with the administration, but we also intend on including it in the following year as well. So I'm just saying. No,
and I'll say this, and I don't want to get into budget too heavy, but the expectation is that 7 million that was set aside is, you know, carrying over with the expectation that it is still there for those purposes.
Yeah. So
I would say you might not want to add to that yet. Like, let's get a system and see how far 7 million takes us in matching.
Okay.
We can always change those things.
So the conversation is going to that piece right there. So we were, just in case, we were going to be prepared to put it in a subsequent year as well. But I'm fine with.
And Commissioner, what I expect is that this is a program that's set up, and maybe it doesn't have the same level of funding every year. You know, maybe there's a lot of takers out there and it goes down to, you know, a few $100,000. Maybe some years there's just not matching funds, so it just holds that over. I think we're all going to learn together on what the capacity is for the townships to use this.
I'm glad that we're, like you said, creating an infrastructure and
Exactly.
in a way that we'll actually be able to implement it. So
Right.
I appreciate that. Okay.
I'd feel better if we had a framework and that we just couldn't agree or find money to fund it.
Mhm.
But it was like, hey, we've got something there we know has worked in the past. It's just a question of finding the money for that.
Okay.
Right now, let's get that framework in place.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Any questions? Can you turn your mic on, Al? Yeah. And lean forward?
You turned it off.
Or different formula, or they don't match.
You know, there are different levels of matches depending on what you're talking about. I think for some of the federal aid, it's a 20% local, 80%. For other things, it's a 50-50 match. Sammy Caldi could probably set me straight on some of those things. But for our program here, there are some guidelines depending on how we structure it, what the level of match needs to be. I can't tell you right now that we'd be fighting for this or fighting for that. But that's a discussion that's going to have to happen after we kind of learn a little bit more about. There are several ways townships can find money for their percentage, and I think that how they get the money determines their match abilities.
They less than the regular cities.
Well, it depends on the project, I think, because the federal aid has, you know, Alan,
It's 20%.
federal aid is 20 local.
It's basically 18 point something.
Which is local.
9% for the local, 9% for us.
Okay. Yeah, so the federal aid is an 18%, which is split 50-50 between us and the locals. None of these are federal aid eligible, by the way. That's why we're finding the money for these residential roads.
So one township that I have in particular has already done PACER ratings. They keep on top of all that type of thing. And I'm glad you're going to be here in 2 months, which is September. So I will be.
Let's not say September yet. Let me get back to you on what
I got a
procurement is.
feeling you didn't realize. that
No,
2
the
months was-
procurement aspect is what's hard to gauge for me right now. I don't know what the turnarounds will be. I know that RFP is closing next week. Whether there are certain follow-ups and questions that make it a longer process. In my experience, I'm actually being on that committee. Some of them happen pretty quickly. Some of them take a little longer. So I'm just saying that once we get.
We'll check back in 2 months
Absolutely.
and see what, because in my case in particular, and I know there's other townships, these neighborhoods have raised a lot of money to get sometimes they're doing some of their own things,
Right.
but we are like in weekly contact with
Yeah.
these neighborhoods. So I was excited. It was in the budget last put in for this year. Like Commissioner Kinlock said, this 7 million will be going into the next one. And HNTB did tell us that they would have recommendations in July, which it sounds like at least there's some guidelines, but if we can really look forward to next spring doing this, because I just think it's pretty nice of those neighborhoods to raise money. I mean, this is all our responsibility to do this. So this money is sitting in some of these pots and they need work. And I'm really hoping in the spring that we get a program. And I think it was good that you made clear that this has to be a match. I mean, you just don't go in
There
and
has to be a
start
match.
doing neighborhood roads in the townships without some kind of skin in the game with the townships.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next
Understood.
spring. Very much so. We give updates like every week or every 2 weeks to my neighborhoods on this. So, and I go and speak to a lot of these groups as well. So that's all I can say.
Let me just say this, what comes to mind, this isn't the only mechanism to help fund local roads. I mean, there are special assessment districts as well.
Yes.
Which might make sense,
Yeah.
might not make sense. They might be waiting to see how this money gets
Right.
divvied up first, but okay.
Right. Yeah, and go ahead.
Okay, one of the townships mentioned that there was I just a period in a couple of years ago where they were told to go ahead and spend the money, and I guess there was a previous road initiative, and then I guess it was clawed back or somehow changed, and the township still had to spend that money. In particular, I'm talking about Van Buren Township.
Yeah, and it's not, I don't think that's unique. I know that there have been instances where there were clawbacks and shutoffs and people were townships were in different processes. Sometimes there's, hey, we sent you that invoice, why haven't you paid it? And it's like, oh, well, who'd you send it to? And it's like months and months and years before a township gets paid. So it's true. I've heard from the supervisor there, Supervisor McNamara, about that. And, you know, it's something we don't want to fall into again.
Okay.
We want it more bureaucratic, right? We want to know exactly, the engineer should get the paperwork and the plans, and the lawyers should get all the documents, and everything should be approved properly and timely, and we should all know and have the same scorecard. That wasn't done in the past, where locals were a little bit confused, I think, as to what they were hearing from the department. And quite frankly, the department was a little confused at what they were hearing from locals about their plans.
So you're gonna build that in there, as far as some of the systems that you saw that.
Yeah, we shouldn't have that in the future. That should not be an issue, the way we're going to frame it.
Okay, Commissioner Davis, I'm sorry.
Any other questions for Andy? Thank you for
All right.
coming and giving an
Yep.
update, and I'll touch base with you in a couple months and we can
Absolutely.
decide when you could come back.
So you'll see me before then.
No, I know that.
Guaranteed.
I mean,
At least.
for this
Good
subject
luck to
matter.
have me out there.
Oh, yeah, we'll be seeing you at budget time, I'm sure.
Great, thank you.
But yeah, well, I'm glad that we've made it clear that 7 million will be carried over into this next budget. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Item 2, forwarding a copy of the detailed completion status of all park projects in the capital improvement plan.
Okay. Sure, everybody had a chance to look at this. Does anybody have any questions? Our Parks Director is here if there's any questions. Okay, next item.
Item 3, requesting commission approval of Amendment 1 to a purchase order terms and conditions contract with 3 one-year options to renew with Truck and Trailer Specialties to add components for 16 10-yard dump truck upfits.
Is someone here on this? Good morning. Okay, so you're gonna get these dump trucks and then you have to fit them
Correct,
specifically for things for Wayne County.
correct. And out of the 10 new dumps that we actually had pre-approval for prior, there were some additional upfits that were needed. We did determine that more lighting was definitely needed to show visibility as the roads are being serviced and the operators are out in the truck. So when you lift up your dumps, one lighting in particular, when you lift up the actual dump itself, the lighting on the back was actually no longer seen. So we're adding more lights around the trucks.
Okay, do you relay that to the company that we're getting the trucks from?
Yeah, so we actually, it's one of those moving progresses as far as upfitting the dumps. We do have specifications, just feedback based from the roads team, what they're seeing when they're actually out on the roads. But this is something that we look to improve year after year. So we do have that relationship with Truck and Trailer.
Okay, so we buy the trucks from Truck and Trailer? And
They
then we
do
have
the
to
actual
split.
upfits. Truck and Trailer does the upfits of the dump. We actually buy the chassis from Wolverine.
Okay, so I guess, do you communicate with Wolverine that you need more things on these trucks? Because
Truck-
then you're spending another 100,000 when you get their trucks and you need more lights on their trucks.
Yeah, the $100,000 was actually something that came internally from us, just actually looking at the trucks, something we wanted to add on just to kind of eliminate accidents out on the road and just be more visible, because you do hear don't crowd the plow because our citizens will do it. So anything we could do to protect the truck as well as our operators, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I just didn't know if maybe they could get the hint just to add them on, so you didn't have to spend the money to add them all on. Any
Understood.
questions on this? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of retroactive modification 3 to a 2-year contract with a 2-year option to renew with RNA Facilities Management to continue providing general lawn services, maintenance, pruning, trimming of trees, fertilizing, and weed removal at the jail divisions 2 and 3, HQ building, Sheriff's Road Patrol Office, Medical Examiner's Office, Juvenile Detention Facility, Lincoln Hall of Justice, Frank Murphy Hall of Justice, and Health Administration Building.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Greg Hurst, Director of Facilities Management and Planning. A couple of things that I wanted to make light of to the Commission for this particular contract. One is we are currently out to bid for those services, but this amendment is to get us through the summer, if you will. So we're looking to end this December 31st. And of course, before the start of the next season, have our RFP complete and have the new or the selected, I should say, vendor on board for next season. This is stated as a retro. However, we have not commissioned service from the vendor due to the contract being expired. So we were essentially waiting for your approval before we activated the vendor.
Okay. All right, because I did read through. Our staff did a good job following that through. Okay, so then you'll be looking at new companies, maybe the same company, to do this work in the future.
Potentially, correct.
Okay, questions on this?
A question, you talk about lawn maintenance and whatnot, Wayne County, I know a number of Wayne County companies who could provide this service. Is there something unique that brought about this contractor?
So this was the contractor that we've had a contract with for several years. And so for the continuity and just to finish through the year, while the
I
RFP was
understand
out
this
to
one
bid.
here, but I'm saying. right,
Yeah, this contract, we're just continuing this because it was already, and we already had it established.
Okay.
And so we're just finishing out the year to ensure that
Thanks.
these facilities, are maintained.
Thank you.
Sure.
There no increase in the cost?
Could you get
No
closer?
increase in the cost?
This is just to extend the contract. So this would extend the terms of the current contract.
Yeah, no, there's an increase in the cost,
Uh,
increase in the cost.
But I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
For the services to be performed this
Yes.
year. Absolutely. It does increase the overall value of the contract.
Yes, by 293,000. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item?
Item 5, requesting commission approval of Amendment 2 to a 3-year contract with a 1-year option to renew with Ellsworth Industries for the purchase and delivery of additional aggregates for the Department of Public Services.
Anyone here on this? Oh. Should have had you just stay and,
Good morning, Angelia Miller, Director of Equipment.
okay, just tell us.
Pretty
Me-
much the price of aggregates have gone up, and this is to supply our roads maintenance team with sand, gravel, and stone. So just overall price increase.
And it looks like fuel costs as well.
I'm not for sure about the fuel costs on this, but this is more so the aggregate in itself and the delivery costs.
Okay, all right. Any questions on this? Okay, are you here for the next one?
I am.
Okay, why don't you, Madam Clerk, why don't you read that?
Item 6, requesting commission approval of a 2-year sole source contract with Carrier and Gable to provide on-demand MDI worldwide NCHRP 350 Windmaster signs for the Department of Public Services Equipment Division.
Okay, this is a sole source company.
Correct. Again, Angelia Miller, Director of Equipment. This is a sole source contract, on-demand contract to provide signs for our road maintenance teams, just to pretty much provide indication, road work ahead, merge left, lanes are being closed. Director of Roads may be able to speak a little bit more to that, but it's pretty much giving our citizens notification that road work is ahead. So
So these are like as you need them.
as we need them, yes, on demand. And I do know the last 2 years, this order was not fulfilled just due to the issues with CNG. So we will be replenishing.
Okay, they had issues that you couldn't use them?
Well, we just kind of halted ordering through them until they went through their investigatory process. Carrier and Gable.
Okay, but they're all cool now and you can use them?
That is correct.
All right. Okay, any questions on this? All right. I don't think you're on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item.
Moving to the addenda, item 7, requesting commission approval of Amendment 4 to a lease agreement with 400 Monroe Associates, extending the term of the lease for the Sheriff's Office Administration Office at 4747 Lower Avenue in Detroit by 3 months.
Okay, it's kind
Oh.
of self-explanatory, but
It is. So, good morning again, Greg Hurst, Director of Facilities Management and Planning. Yeah, so this is a continuation of what was previously brought before this committee, where we previously, you voted on the holdover from January 1st through June 30th. This amendment is going to get us through July 1 through September 30th until we are able to move out of that building. And the Sheriff's Department's admin is fully operational at the CJC. But it also allows us to go back and kind of decommission that building as well and clean that out and make sure all of our equipment is accounted for.
sure, and we just had a CJC meeting and September 3rd is still the goal, right?
And it's still the goal.
Yep. So good goal to have.
Move
Questions?
approval.
Okay, no, we have one more item.
Oh, one more.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next item.
Item 8, forwarding the June 2024 report of all complaint calls made to 1888 Road Crew.
I do have a question on this. This is from Andy, but I don't know if or say, and Steve. I have a question. There were like in the report, 93 dead animals. So where do we pick up dead animals? Like just on our roads, the county roads?
I think, what do we do with dead animals is a better response.
I was
Go ahead,
surprised
Steve.
at the number of.
Good morning.
Good
honorable
morning.
Commissioners. Steve Shea, Division Director of Road. So yes, we do pick up dead animals, whether it be dogs, deer. And then we do have a freezer over at District 6, well, if whatever it can hold, but technically, we're working on a contract right now to find a way to dispose some of these animals.
So it's on county roads. How about on highways? Do we do highways?
Yes,
Okay, so just county roads and highways.
yes.
Yeah, under the MDOT contract, we will service that.
Gosh, I don't know why that's.
Why is that?
So you're looking for someone to do something with this? This could be an entrepreneurial new
Um,
business.
I've talked to Ted Zillink from City of Livonia and
Oh.
found out how they do their disposal.
Oh, Ted, okay.
Yeah, so one of the ways that we're exploring is that we're looking to add more dumpsters in different districts as we pick up these and put them in the dumpster and have like a bi-weekly pickup on these. So that's something that I'm exploring right now and hope to be putting it together real soon.
Okay, that'll come to us.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and
Is
you,
it-
no,
No, is that dumpster, you're gonna have one in every city or there small city you could have?
In districts, in different
in
districts,
district?
yes.
In district. Usually what you said they in the freezer, what they do after the freezer, did they bury them in the ground?
Usually they'll, before, been practices, we had a contract with a company that will pick them up and they will incinerate those dead carcasses. But now, we're doing something differently, completely different is which will have 20 yards per se loaded with dead animals and they'll just take it to the landfill.
Landfill?
Yeah, specific places for where they would accept dead animals. So that's what I'm working on right now.
All right, thank you. And it's my understanding Michelle Yancey is on Zoom and would like to
Yes, I'm working with Michelle on.
add a
that.
little
She
bit
can
here.
add, yeah.
Michelle?
Hello, I hope you all can hear me. Yes, I'm stuck in the whole debacle of the getting out the state where I am to get back home. But anyway,
Delta.
yes, we are in the process of working with procurement to solidify a contract for the removal of dead animals to a disposal site along with our dumpster rental and trash removal. So that will be included with that RFP, and which is currently out to bid right now.
Okay, that sounds good. It sounds like you and Steve are working on this lovely contract. Does anybody?
You,
Commissioner Brady?
Commission approved, that freezer approval. Maybe you didn't really know what it was for, but it's, like a food grade refrigeration unit that's over at the highway yard. We had to get a bigger one because the little drop-in freezers weren't cutting it anymore, so.
Steve, we're talking about dead animals, but what about those live coyotes on county property, specifically behind my backyard?
Not a roads
I'm
issue.
serious.
Not a roads issue.
Show it live.
Maybe a parks. We'll call Alicia here next to me.
They're the ones that are killing those animals that they're picking up. Okay, well, go ahead.
Since you're here,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I just had a question. Something dealing with a budget request from a commissioner, but the chair has authorized me to actually do due diligence before we move forward with it. Franklin High School in Livonia, a crosswalk, they've been making a request for a crosswalk. Could you all at least be prepared to look into that and, come with a recommendation whether or not it's doable to provide that
Sure.
crosswalk? Because it's the intention to probably move this one forward as well as part of the budget process. But want to get some full feedback from you all.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's something that we've been looking at and our engineers, traffic engineers have been looking at, but we should talk about that.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay.
All right, any more? Should we leave? All right, thank you.
Motion to move all items to the full board for consideration.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to move everything to full board. We have a support. Any comments before we vote? All right, and we can vote on our tablets.
Okay, my tablet comes on.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk?
F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I've heard of none. Next item.
G, public comments.
Anyone from the chambers that would like to address the Committee on Public Services, please come forward. Okay, do we have any emails, Madam Clerk?
No emails are received.
Okay, how about hands up on Zoom?
No hands on Zoom.
Okay, could you unmute everyone to see if there's someone on the phone that would like to address us? If there's someone on the phone, you have 2 minutes and you can address the Committee on Public Services. Okay, I'm hearing none. I'm seeing none. So next item,
Adjournment.
okay?
Motion, Joe.
We have a motion to adjourn.
He make the motion. I support.